Hello everyone, Happy New Year. Hope everyone is doing well. So today we're going to talk about Paytm Gateway integration in React Native. So far you have completed PayPal, Stripe and RezervePay. If you don't know about them, if you want to see the videos, I will attach the link of that playlist in the description. So today we are going to focus on Paytm integration. Also one of my users requested me to make a video on this topic. I was just hoping for a developer account. Finally I got one. So today I'm going to focusing on Paytm integration in Android and iOS as well. So first what we're going to do, we're going to create a fresh project. So let's create a project and we're going to name it Paytm React Native. And for Paytm I can also look you can search for Paytm React Native, and Paytm also provide a beautiful SDK with that we can integrate Paytm so easily and smoothly. So if you open this search on Paytm React Native, you can got the first link developer.paytm, and here you can see we have a lot of platform Ionic, Cordova, Flutter, Unity, a lot of them. I'm focusing on React Native. So first what we are going to do, I need to install this package, and I need to add something in the Android section and the iOS section as well. So we first let us first create the project. So before that, after that, we're going to install that. And for Paytm integration, you also need a backend to generate a transaction token. So for that, we also have a folder. I guess you can notice at the beginning a Paytm Backend. So we're going to use PHP for that. You can use different language. You can find that example project in the doc somewhere in the documentation. I'm just let you guys to find that, and if you want to do with PHP, you can simply just copy that. I will attach the link in the description of the GitHub project and the Paytm backend as well. So what we need to do, first thing you can see over here, this is app Invoke Flow. So what is app Invoke Flow? Suppose you have a Paytm app installed in your application, in your device, and you want to in an application you are making a payment using Paytm. So if you you can read over here, in case the Paytm app is installed, it will be launched to complete the transaction and give the response back to the app. So if you app invoke is true, that means it will open that Paytm application that you've installed and complete the payment. And if you make that to false, it will not open any application, any Paytm application you have installed. It will open that inside a web view and complete the payment into a web view and get back to your application. And we have to pass couple of things to make the payment. First we need to pass the MID and order ID, transaction token, amount, and staging. Staging means that you are in a testing mode, like in development mode. So there are two. If you are in a development mode and using test credentials, so need to set is staging true, otherwise you need to set false for production, as you can see defined over here. And we have something called callback URL. So there are two types of callback URL. One is for the staging environment, one is production environment, as you can see over here. And one is that app invoke flow I told you, restrict app invoke flow. So only rejection flow when true, else app invoke is payment app is installed. See? Okay, so this one is URL schema, and this one is only required for the iOS implementation. If you are only using Android, so then you don't need to add this thing in the while calling the transaction function. And if you are using both platform Android and iOS, so you need to add this URL schema, otherwise it will not complete the payment, or it will not go to that particular payment section. Okay, so what we need to do, we just need to import this all-in-one SDK manager, and we just need to call this function, and if it succeeds, it will give a response. If it's catch an error, it will also give a next response. So you can see order ID, MID, transaction token, and for the transaction token, we need to call an API, and in that API we need to pass couple of things, and I'm going to show you that. I'm just explaining couple of stuff before get started. So in transaction API you need to pass order ID, and keep that in mind. A single order ID will call that API a single time. You cannot use a single order ID each and every time. You need to pass a unique order ID every time you call the transaction API token. And you need to pass the amount, and in amount you cannot pass only amount, you also need to pass amount with 2 decimal number. And for the callback URL, there are 2 types of callback URL. One is for staging server, one is for production server. And mostly staging is true or false. If app invoke restricted, that means you don't want to open the application, you want to complete that payment inside your app using the web view that is provided by the all-in-one SDK manager. And URL schema, as I told you, it's for iOS. And you will get a response like this: the bank name, bank transaction ID, checksum, currency, gateway name, MID, and all the stuff. Okay, so let's hope the project is created. Yeah, it's created. So we're going to navigate to that project, and first thing we're going to do, we're going to install this package, and we're going to install that package. Yeah, before installing that package, let me open that in VS Code, so we can by the time it's installing the package, you can complete other stuff as well. You can install the package. Yeah, so it's installing. So for Android, what we need to do, we need to first need to check is minimum SDK version is 18 or not. If you are using an old version of old application or old that is created 1 or 2 years ago, so then you might need to check it's 18 or not. But if you are using a fresh application like in 2022 or 21, I guess it will be by default 19. So it's better to have check once, and we just need to copy this, and we need to go to our project, then open the build file, build.gradle, and here you can see the minimum SDK is 21 by default, and you just need to paste that Maven over here. And second thing we need to do, we need to add this 3 dependency inside our build.gradle, inside our app folder. In Android folder, inside we have a app folder, and inside that we have a build.gradle folder, sorry, build.gradle file. So we need to add these 3 over here. And if you notice, they also mention couple of things regarding these packages as well. So if you are like, in case the HTTP expression make the following changes, you need to build a Gradle. So if you are getting any kind of error, just need to add this, you need to upgrade the HTTP version, and yes, this one is already added. Yeah, this one is already added, debug implementation. Otherwise you need to add these things if you are getting any kind of error. So this one is for the Android. You just need to add this thing in the build.gradle inside the app folder, and you just need to add this Maven inside the Android folder build.gradle, and also need to check the minimum SDK version is 18 or after 18. Okay, now what we need to do for the iOS. For the iOS, we need to do a couple of things. First, let me open the project in the Xcode so we can change. And we also need to open the Xcode because we also need to add this thing. So because of that, we need to change open the Xcode. Okay, so Xcode is loading. So it's loading the application, indexing. Okay, so let me show you where you can find the MID in your Paytm. So first you need to log into dashboard.paytm.com, and you also need to have a valid business account for the Paytm payment gateway integration. So by default, if you open this thing, and if you go to this developer settings and click on API keys, you can see all the transaction test, merchant ID, and merchant key. So by default, if you are not able to see this thing, you just need to click on the developer option over here, and it will ask for login. You just need to click on the login, and then if you go to the if it's not available for you at the first time, so then you need to follow these steps. So you can see the merchant ID and merchant key. Now also you can see the website over here. So why I'm mentioning the website, let me show you in a minute. We need to add this MID inside our these URL types. So in the Xcode, if you open that, first it's mentioned that you need to in pod file you need to have a minimum version of iOS 10. So let's check that first. If you go to pod files, so it's 11 by default, and if you are not able to open Xcode, you can also check that over here. Go to iOS folder, then the pod file, it's 11 by default, and then we need to add these URL types. For the URL types, we need to click on that project folder and then go to this info, and then we have something called URL types. And what we need to do inside the URL types, we need to add this URL schema, that is we need to mention Paytm, then MID, then your MID. So there are two kind of MID, one is for production, one is for staging. So while we are doing the staging implementation, we need to mention the staging, and when you are switching to production, you just need to change that product MID as well. Right near her now we need to mention, so if you click on the plus icon, then you need to put the first we need to enter Paytm, then MID, and then we need to put the MID of our account. So MID is this one, test merchant ID, then we need to paste that. So that is correct, and you can see the URL types are already showing 1, so we added successfully. So now this is the URL types, and we also need couple of things. We also need to edit that one file, appdelegate.m. So if you go to the Xcode, and inside that particular project folder you have find something in same as your project folder name, then you can find that app delegate m. So then you need to open that file, and you need to paste that this thing. And just for your information, please check, do not add this after this one, add this at the top, and after that you also need to add this thing after this implementation of app delegate. It's just so if you are familiar with deep linking or any kind of like open link, open URL thing, so you already, I guess you are having an idea what you are doing. Just need adding linking manager in our application, and that is all for the iOS as well. Now coming back to the application, so first we added this thing, and we added all the things are required for Android as well. Now we are going to run the application for the Android. So we're going to complete the thing for Android first, then after that we're going to switch that to iOS. So if you go to the terminal, and if you run the application, so our application is running. So now if you go back over here and open our emulator, you can see a fresh application is up and running. Now if you close this file, so you don't need to open this thing again in case I do, and for iOS we're gonna see that later. So you can see we have a fresh project opening over here. Now I'm going to add couple of things that are already implemented, and I'm going to copy couple of function inside the application, then I'm going to explain that one by one. Now, so I added couple of things. I added the pay now function. I added service file, the constant file, and the backend file inside our application as well. So what we have in this file, first we're going to look into the service file. So inside our service file, what we are doing, we are calling an API that is mentioned inside our Paytm Backend folder. So we are calling an API to get the token, and to call an API and call that API, we are passing the order ID and the amount inside that particular API, and based on that we are getting a token, and then we are calling this all-in-one SDK manager transaction function. And what are the things we have in the constant file? In the constant file, we have the MID stored, we have the API URL that we are going to call, we have the callback URL, and as you can notice, you have the staging callback URL, and for the production callback URL, you can come to this particular section of that document, and you can see the staging and the production callback URL mentioned all near here. So you need to change that when you're switching that to production. And we have that URL schema that is required for the iOS. For the URL schema, you need to paste copy that same thing that you have did in the Xcode, Paytm, then MID, then your Paytm, then MID, then your MID form you can find from the developer account. So that is all in the constant file. We're storing that in a single file because in future you need to change that, so you don't want to change everywhere. So just storing that in a single file, so it will be easy for us to change whenever you want. Okay, so inside that app.js we have a button, so we are calling a function pay now, and inside the function we have order ID, we have the amount, then we are calling that function generate token, and if you open that function, it's a post method API. So we are calling an API, we are passing order ID and amount, and then we are getting the transaction token. I'm gonna show you the API in a minute, and after that we are calling that all-in-one SDK manager transaction start transaction API function. We are passing the order ID, we are passing the MID, we are passing the token, and we are passing the amount with 2 fixed 2 that will generate the 2 decimal number that is required for this particular thing, and you're also passing that callback URL with the order ID. As you can see over here, you need to pass the callback URL with the order ID for the production as well. And then we are passing, and that is staging is true, we are passing app invoke, like remove app invoke true, and URL schema. So we're not able to show you the application things in emulator because last I checked it wasn't working with the emulator. Also it was working with a real device. So when you are implementing that, you can simply run the application in your real device and check that thing. So it will open your application. For that account you need to for that particular thing you need to install at staging application that is provided here. Yeah, I can see, I can click into the link and it will give you a simple sample application for the testing. Where is the application? Sorry, it's not that link, it's for that particular project link for that API app. This one, download the Paytm staging app. You can click on that, click here, and you can install this staging application. And before installing the staging application, you need to uninstall that application that you installed from Play Store. After that, you can install the staging application. You can check with the real device, and for the number for the login purpose, you need to pass 7-10 times, and for the for if it's asking for the OTP, you need to pass 8-6 times, and it's asking for the password, you need to pass Paytm 1234 and P as in capital. So that is all. And so if you are testing that, you need to test that with real device. It won't work with the emulator. Last time what I checked, it wasn't working. So this is all we need to do, and let's have a look in the backend as well. So for the backend, we have a file called token.php. This one is the file, and we have also a keys.php where we are storing that MID and merchant key. We need also we need the merchant key and MID as well. The same reason we are storing that inside a single file is that we need to change that in the future. So that's why we are storing that in a single file. And you also have an index.php file, just getting an echo that the server is working or not. Okay, so in the token.php you are getting importing that Paytm checksum.php that is provided by the Paytm, and also receiving the order ID and amount. And in the Paytm params, you need to pass request type Paytm, the name ID, and the website name is the web staging that I shown in the over here, the website. And then we need to pass the order ID, and then again the callback URL, and you need to mention the callback URL is different, and you need to check the callback URL you are providing over here and inside the app.js are the same thing. So it needs to be same inside to redirect your application. In order to redirect to the application, and you also need to pass the order ID here as well as same in the application you are doing. And in the transaction amount we are passing the amount and the currency INR, and in user info you can pass the user data whatever you want. Right now we don't have any, and you can just pass simple anything you want, as I can see. And there are a couple of things you are doing over couple of things are doing in the Paytm that is provided, and you also need to pass the merchant key over here. And for this URL, for production you need to pass this URL, this URL. For the staging you need to pass this URL. So you just need to keep mention you have to keep remember that you are in a production mode and you are in a staging mode. So based on that environment you need to change the URLs as well, otherwise it won't work. So you just need to keep that inside your mind. Yeah, so that is all inside our backend. So let me run the backend first. So if you are going to run the backend, so as you can see it says the server is started, and if you open this link, so we can see the index.php file and it will say it's working. So first let's check that. So if you go to Google Chrome and you are getting something, it's working. And also need to verify with that particular mobile browser, because you are in a developing mode, that's why we are doing that. And if you are I guess when you are doing this, you are going to use a how can I say that you're going to use a server, so no need to worry about that. Okay, somehow it's not opening. Let me close that and run that again. Okay, so I was having some issue with the localhost in the emulator. So last I checked, it was working with a simulator but not with the emulator. So I changed to my server URL. I'm not using this localhost URL. I changed to the server URL, and the both cases it will work. If you manage to run that in using localhost inside emulator, just let me know in the comment section. And in that particular service file I'm using a different URL that is mentioned inside this file. The file is same, just change the server. So now if we click on this create payment button, it will generate the token and it will navigate us to the Paytm SDK inside a web view. So if you go to that particular so we are getting a response from the server, and you can see our transaction token over here. So we are passing that using by calling that API and passing that in the start transaction function. So now it will ask for the mobile number, and mobile number is 10 times 7, and then you ask for the OTP. OTP is 6 times 8. Then if you click on the verify, you can pay using the Paytm balance, or you can use any debit card. Debit card CCB is 1, 2, 3. And first let me pay with the Paytm balance, and if you click on pay right now, so it will complete the payment and back and then it will navigate back to our application screen where we started the payment. And if you want to see the response we are getting from that gateway, if you go to the JSON viewer and paste that response we are getting, you can have a proper look. So you can see the bank transaction ID, currency, gateway name, MID, order ID, Paytm mode, transaction ID as well. So you can see all the things over here. So based on that response, based on the response you are getting inside the then, you can do your own logic. And also don't forget to put a condition based on the status. Sometimes you are getting transaction success, it will get most of the time. So maybe somehow there is an error and you will get a failure as well. So put a condition based on the status success, then do your logic over here. So let me give a quick summary what I did. First we have two variables, order ID and amount. It will be different based on your scenario. It might be coming from API or somewhere else. So this one is these two things, and also we're calling an API to get the token based on the amount and the order ID. And inside that particular application, so it will generate a token based on the order ID, MID and the amount. So then we are getting the token and we're passing that inside the trust transaction function. We're passing order ID, MID, token and amount to fixed to, because it's need a 2 decimal number. So you need to put amount then dot this thing. So it will this 2 fix will make that amount like this, and we are passing that callback URL. And don't forget to check if the callback URL you are passing over here and over here are the same, and also need to change that based on the environment you are using, staging or production. And then you are passing a staging true, and if you are in production you need to pass false, and the rest will be true false based on your choice. And this URL schema is required for iOS, not for Android. Okay, so in Android we are getting the payment, and also let me show you the dashboard data so you can have a look. Okay, so we are inside the dashboard. So if you go to that dashboard and payment, so we can see there is no payment available. So you need to enable this stage data, and then because they are using a staging environment, so then you can see the payment transaction over here. Why this is not showing? Okay, so it was made at 14:59, so that's why it's not showing over here. So let me create another payment, make another payment, then we can see everything is. So now you need to change the order ID. You don't need to worry about that, because in future it will be, you will use this dynamic value that you are getting based on your application logic. And if you click on now doing a payment of 101, and if you verify, now if you go to the dashboard and look for the data for today, yeah, we can see we have a payment 101 rupees. You can see the date and time, transaction ID, order ID and everything. Okay, so in Android everything is working as expected. And if you want to check with the payment Paytm application as well, as I mentioned over here, you can download that staging application from here, and install that in your real device. In emulator it will not work, it will only work with the real device, the staging application. So install that in your device and check with the actual device and change the app restrict app invoke, where it is, it's this one, restrict app invoke. So then you can see it will, if the application is installed, it will open the application, otherwise it will continue the payment inside the web view. Okay, so for Android everything is working, and let me know if you have any question or you're having any trouble. Let me know in the comment section. Now we're going to continue with the iOS section. We already added the things that are required for the iOS, like this one and URL types and this thing as well, and now we're going to run the iOS using the using the terminal. So for the iOS, first you need to go to the iOS folder and run this thing, pod install, and it will install the pods. Now if you are getting this error, generate duplicated UUID, so if you are getting this error, you need to add something in your project, and if you are not getting this error, you are good to go. So what you need to add in your project, so you need to go to the iOS folder, then you need to go to the pod file. You can go to pod file from here. I can open that using the Xcode as well. You need to go over here and you just need to paste this thing after the platform, like after top of the target. So you need to add this thing, so it will solve the issue of this thing, solve the issue of duplicate UUID. So now run the pod install command one more time, and now this will install all the pod. If you are getting this error, then add that, or otherwise don't add that inside your pod file. Now if we if you are going, now you are going to run the application for iOS as well. So simulator is up and running. So our application is running, and don't need to open that pod file again. Yeah, start loading the Metro bundle. Yeah, so now if we are checking that on iOS, if we click on create payment, it will give us some error because we need to pass that URL schema over here. So we need to pass the URL schema for iOS, and now if you click on create payment, so you can see here it's you're able to see the response, and so now you are getting a transaction failure because of the transaction ID that we provided, because we already did the payment using the transaction ID. So now you need to change that order ID, and if you are click on create payment again, and then you can see it's asking for the phone number. Now this time I'm going to pay using the credit card, a debit credit or debit card, so whatever. So you can see it's making the payment with everything. Last time we did with the wallet. and now I'm going to do with that card data, the test card data they are provided. So it's verifying the OTP. Yeah, so now I'm going to do with the debit card. So for the debit card CVV, it's 123, and if we click on pay now, you can also see the time over here. So it says for the testing purpose you need to click on success, otherwise if it's the production mode it will automatically navigate to your application. So click on success and see the notice the time is 12:13. So you're going to, and also are getting the response of transaction success, and all the data are the same. I can also see the order ID, card ID, sorry, not card ID, order ID, and the transaction ID, currency, amount, everything. So we're going to check that on our dashboard one more time. If you receive that payment, so yeah, it's 12 we receive a payment of 101 rupees. You can see HDFC Bank, and you can see the order ID and everything. And yeah, so we are getting the we are able to make payment using Paytm in Android and iOS as well. Yeah, so that is all, I guess. Yeah. Let me know if you have any question, comment your question below, and I hope you like this video. And if you are new to the channel, you can explore more. There are a couple of things you can explore. You will also implement a couple of payment gateway already, and please make sure to subscribe. And if you like this video, please give it a like and share thought in the comment section, and don't forget to comment, and don't forget to mention the next video topic regarding payment gateway. So you already completed 4, and don't forget to mention the next one. That's all, I guess. I don't think I'm missing right now. Oh yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, so I will also attach the project link in the description. Yeah, so that, thank you all for watching. Bye bye, see you in the next video.